Hello everybody and welcome back to Big Dan's channel. I am of course as always Big Dan, and today I am going to be reviewing The Substance. Now, this is a film that had been on my watch list for a little while, and I remember I've just first seen the trailer for it when I was going to see something else a few weeks ago. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I will admit that at first I didn't actually plan on originally going to see this at the cinema. I planned on having it as a home watch just because even from the trailer alone it seemed really creepy and like quite a graphic watch. But in all honesty, I am pretty glad I actually went to go and see this in the end. So the thing with this film is that if you don't know the story about it already, it's where the protagonist of the film, Elizabeth, her name is, played by Demi Moore, takes a sort of experimental drug that makes what's meant to be sort of a clone of herself that's meant to be sort of much younger and just generally better looking and basically meant to be sort of like a better version of her, as it's put. Like, as the trailer put it, it's supposedly like a perfect version of her, as they called it. What I thought was really good about the film is that I thought the use of the commentary on beauty standards here was really well done, as well as some of the cinematography and sound design used here. Particularly in the first act, I will admit later on in the film this does disappear a bit, sadly. But I liked there was a lot of cinematography and sound design that made the film feel very uncomfortable to watch and listen to. Like, for example, I got much closer to Dennis Quaid's face than I ever wanted to be in my lifetime. And as well as that, I thought it had some really good, just different elements of it, like pacing and stuff like that, just some more basic film form elements. And as I said, I thought it was a good commentary on beauty standards because of the fact that, like, just how much, well, let's not sugarcoat it, it is generally women who are expected to do this, how much they're expected to sort of, like, go to extreme lengths in order to be described as beautiful, but it's a very sort of vague term and not one that, you know what I mean, like it's very objective, and obviously beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder, as the saying goes. And I thought that was really well done. Yeah, and in all honesty, that is probably the film's strongest point. I mean, with the sound design and cinematography following as a close second to it, because it was really strong, and I was surprised that it was as good as it was. Like, and as I said, even in the last act, there's little bits of it here and there where it is actually pretty well done. When it comes to negatives, I will admit I wasn't a particular fan of the last act, though. Just compared to the rest of the film, it felt very sort of out of place and just like it didn't kind of belong. Like, I could get what they were trying to go for, but at the same time, as I say, it just didn't really belong, and it just dragged it out a little bit. And I felt like there was quite a few parts throughout it, I mean, where you could have easily just sort of ended the film and it would have been perfectly fine, and it was just a bit longer than it needed to be because the film's about like 2 hours 20. So there was little bits like, oh, you could easily put an end in here, like when I was watching it, kind of thing. Because I went to see this with my girlfriend, so it was also helpful because, in all honesty, I was actually not me, sorry, she was actually one of the only women in the room for this. Like, there was only 4 or 5 other people in there, but I think there was like, out of them, only 2 was actually women. So, but yeah, even so, like, I don't think that's particularly a problem. I just wanted to bring it up. But I don't know, just the last part of it came a bit out of nowhere. Like, it was very graphic, and I can appreciate the sort of practical effects they used for it, and throughout some of the earlier parts of the last act, because it's in the last half hours when it probably sort of changes, and I was a bit like, can we wrap this up? But even before, like the early parts of the last act, I still can appreciate the practical effects they used. So I thought that was pretty good. And as well as that, there was like little bits of sort of plot holes here and there where like I couldn't really get into them, we'll say. Like, those little bits, like, for example, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, don't worry, but there is, when she first takes the drug, it does seem quite bloody, we'll say. And even taken into this film's like science and that, because to give you a brief breakdown of it, the science is meant to be that like the substance sort of replicates your cells to like make the younger version of you, but that's not how that science works, because that's mitosis, and all that does is just it helps you with like growing. It doesn't make a younger version of you. But moving on from that, and just the amount of blood loss, like, and even with the stuff that they give her that's supposed to like keep her alive, it wasn't realistic, and it's like you kind of convince someone would be alive after taking all of that just because of sheer blood loss alone. But even so, like, those are the only real problems I have with the minor plot holes and just the last act being a bit dragged out. And as I said, it's got a really strong commentary on beauty standards, in my opinion. The sound and cinematography was really well done, and it was brilliantly paced throughout. I genuinely couldn't find myself bored at really any point except that last act. So, for all of the reasons I've just mentioned there, my final verdict for The Substance is an 8 out of 10. That is a little bit lower than I know some people have given. I did originally consider a 9 out of 10. My girlfriend actually gave this a 7, which I thought was quite low, to be honest. But again, that's just her opinion. But the reasons for it is just, as I said, I was considering a 9, but it's just afterwards when we started to think about these little plot holes here and there that were like, how did this happen? How did this happen? Like, nothing major, but there was like little ones scattered here and there. It kind of dragged my score down to an 8. But I mean, even so, it's still a very strong film. And as I said, I didn't originally plan on seeing this in the cinema. Yeah, I've went and watched it, and I'm actually really glad I did, especially for the sound design aspect of it, because you can't really get that at home, like that kind of strong level of sound. So if you want my recommendation, I would definitely say this is one to go and see at the cinema while it's out. And if it's one where you're interested in, because Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore give a great performance here, and it is honestly such a good film, and it is quite high up on my list for this year. It is really, really good, and I would highly recommend this as one to go and see. So, with all that said and done, I would like to thank you all for watching. I have been Big Dan, and I am out. Peace.